Namaskar. So we are here back again with another episode of Career Corner. As you know, every time we come out with one discipline and one guru. A discipline of education which youngsters around the country are interested in, and a guru, a scholar, a practitioner in that field who has an in-depth knowledge. We are very happy to tell that today we are taking up the discipline of law. Law, jurisprudence, justice, these are the words we know for a long time. And to have a deep dive, delve deep into this field of law, we have with us a truly, in the true sense, a guru. And by the way, guru could be gender neutral. We have a guru of law, Professor Dr. Jyotsna Yagnik.
Namaste.
Who has been the Chief Judge of Ahmedabad City Court, has been principal of several law colleges in Gujarat, has been associated with Gujarat University Law and also with several other colleges there, in recent times with Nirma University Law Department as well, who has been a scholar, a writer and a public speaker on issues related to law, and today she is the Pro Vice Chancellor of Adamas University and Dean of the School of Law and Justice. Welcome to the show, madam.
Thank you so much.
And it's an interesting thing that you lead a school which is called School of Law and Justice, whereas most of the colleges of law are called Institute or College or Department of Law. So first of all, I would ask you, these three words are the commonest in the field of law: law, justice and jurisprudence.
Yes.
What do these mean?
Law means a rule of behavior, how a human being should conduct in public life, in private life. So there will be rules and the state will make all these rules. Collectively, all these rules are known as law. It gives command, it gives mandates to its subject to behave in a particular way. So in a way, you can say that law describes norms of conduct, what to do, what not to do, what should be your act which will be recognized by law, what you need to omit. That is law. Whereas justice is an application of law, sorry, keeping in mind the factual aspect. What is the factual aspect? That differs case to case and fact to fact. So justice is something which is being administered, which is interpretation, implementation of law, keeping in mind particular kind of facts of a respective case. Third question which you have asked, I would lead to that, that is, what is jurisprudence? Prudence is a commonly known word, that means wisdom. Juris is a Latin word, it is connected with law. So wisdom of law, you can say that science of law, because law behave in a particular way only. Laws are framed for sociological need, for psychological need. Every society needs different law. So that science which guides lawmakers, that science which guides law interpreter, that science which guides law executors, how to do that, that science, that wisdom is known as jurisprudence. These are the three words. As such, all the three are connected with each other, but I have made a humble attempt to distinguish all the three.
Thank you, ma'am. You are indeed a teacher. The way you speak, the way you explain and the way you go from point to point. So a set or body of norms which are legally sanctified, that's law. When you apply it in a context, and the context may change, and you apply to come to a decision, execute, that's justice. And this entire art and science of law and legal provisions. So jurisprudence, wisdom of law, that's the science of law is jurisprudence.
True.
What a well said. Thank you, ma'am. Law has been there almost almost as much as human civilization has been there in some form or the other. Yes, some norms of behavior have been there from the earliest stages of human life. So if someone wants to know how has law evolved from the earliest human civilization to this 21st century till now, how has law evolved over phases and stages of human growth? How
I can say that society of any part of world was never without law. Only its nomenclature kept on changing, because whenever a human being will have to live in group, certain norms will have to be accepted, adopted. There has to be one leader. Today the leader is government or one who is ruling on us. Likewise, when human beings were living in caves, they used to live in a group, and the group had a leader. So leader would fix particular norms which would be binding and applicable to members of that group. That, as far as I am talking, is of India. If you talk on the world level, originally in Greek there was a forum system. The forum system was such wherein on the top of the hill the wise person would sit and they will adjudicate somebody's dispute. Those who are having dispute, they would come to the forum and forum would decide. So it was a very systematical method. In India also we had a punch system. Below banyan tree, wise person of the village will sit, and whatever dispute were there between two villages, those were being resolved. Then after, it came based on religion, that a religious head will administer justice. Then after, the kings thought that let us not based only on religion, let us find out the person who has sense of justice. Then some other intellectual people, like in Akbar, Birbal was there, likewise people, they were asked to administer justice. And then after, when British came to us, we had the present systematic form of appointing judges who knows law, who can apply law, who are trained, a peculiar kind of training is being imparted, so that consistency and uniformity can appropriately be maintained. So present, to come to present from cave, we have travelled a lot at world level also, as I have told you, from banyan tree to today's AC court, from forum of Greek in a small village on the top of the mountain to today's modern courts of Europe. So the journey is very long, but one thing is consistent, that since the human civilization, need of justice is constantly felt, that thirst, that craving has always remained. So truthfulness is the gist of the entire affairs as far as it is connected with justice.
Thank you. That is how the concept of law has evolved over stages. So if we look at governance pattern, because law has been connected to the governance pattern as well. So there were tribal societies initially, when groups of people settled on particularly the river banks. So several civilizations came up on the river banks, and they became tribes and groups of people there. Later on, these tribal, there were laws there as well, and then it evolved into divine law theory, and kings and emperors came, as we know, and the civilizations grew stronger. The kings actually brought in other lands also, for labor and land and resources. They fought wars and brought many other kingdoms together. So then kingship came, and along with kingship, as it went ahead, the feudal culture, the feudal laws came and established, and there were landed gentry, and below the kings there were several other powerful classes, which also created their own laws. Then the industrial revolution happened in Europe, particularly starting from England, and with industrial revolution a huge amount of exodus of land bound people happened to the urban areas for being workers in the new factories that came up. And that's why this concept of individual liberty, equality, fraternity came up. capitalism as an economy came up, in the system came up, and it brought forth the concept of the demand for elected governments. Gradually the concept of democracy came up, elected governments were brought in. Over a period of time, it was found these elected governments were of very powerful classes. The large proletariat did not have a much of role there in changing laws or changing the system. And then there was again movements in different countries of the world from workers' perspective, and we gradually brought in socialist or communist governments or states with a new set of laws in various countries. Today we have coexistence of many. There are remnants of feudalism, there are remnants of, there is a large impact of capitalism, then there are remnants of socialism and communism also in some countries at least, and failed in many other countries, but some systems are still going on. And then there is welfare state, which tried to bring the best things of capitalism and socialism together. So this evolution of society has happened over time. How has law changed? What I have been talking is the change in the economy and political economy of the world, or political economy of different countries accordingly. How have the law changed with the change of governance and change of political system?
The major effect came after World War II. In Hiroshima and Nagasaki, what has happened before World War II, that has awakened the entire world, and therefore UNO came into existence. From there, International Labour Organization and many such international organizations start functioning. Some countries have started joining it, became the members of it. Those organizations have made treaties which were signed or endorsed or acceded to by different countries, and thereby after World War, a sort of a uniformity through this kind of treaties have started being injected in our society. Like today, take an example of CEDAW. So whatever the CEDAW says, the signatories countries will make law in the respective signatory countries in the light and in the line what has been said in the treaty. So the big change came after the Second World War. After the Second World War, we understood the importance of labor. Before that, there was heavy impact of capitalism, there was landlordships and many more things, but after Second World War, slowly and gradually our entire philosophy started leaning in favor of labor. While leaning in favor of labor, a new concept emerges, that is welfare concept, and therefore in law also there are many jurists who wrote that which law is the best, the law which make happiness of the highest people is the best law. So happiness of highest people, the law which can attain happiness of highest people is the best law. This kind of theory started coming. Before that, it was all whims of the ruler. Whatever the whim came in the mind of the ruler, that used to be law. After this, a new concept, modern ideology came, welfare concept was introduced, and as you know, in our Constitution of India also there were several changes, basic changes have been made, and we also tried to see to it that our state, India, becomes a welfare state. When it becomes welfare state, the state owns many responsibilities. There are directive principles of state policy which gives direction to state how to rule, what kind of laws should be made, what to do for free legal aid, whether those whose income is less, should he suffer injustice just because he is fiscally incapable, or those who are oppressed and suppressed, what to do for them. All these new concepts have emerged, and those concepts are satisfactorily effective today, which attempts to bring equality among unequals, and the basic ideology is to see to it that law leans more to unequal, to downtrodden, to underprivileged, so as to see to it that those who are capable, those who have more, are themselves inherently capable, but those who are helpless should be aided by state, and that is the welfare concept as far as law is concerned.
Great. That brings us to a variety of evolutionary issues or aspects that happened in recent times in law. And as Madam has clearly told, how law has evolved over time, and particularly over the last, since the Second World War. Madam, even in today's world, there are parallel legal systems of a very varied nature, from the advanced Western countries to the current and the previous socialist communist countries to the African nations where tribal laws also coexist, and to laws like in India. And there are many influences on law. If you could speak about this variety and the influences that the legal systems of the world go through.
These varieties is the charm of law, because law is for the society. Law is not one ideology which is never to be used. Law is something which is every day, even when I am breathing air, what amount of oxygen comes to me, whether the air is polluted or not, there also the law works. So, law is closely connected with our day to day life. Therefore, the law has to be varieties, has to be changed from state to state, country to country, because the need change. Law is the instrument of social engineering. So, social engineering is what? It is effective to particular class of the society. So, what happened in India, what is the sociological background of India, what is the economy of India, what is the labor condition in India, what is the industrial growth in India, based on that law of India should be, and that is the real test, that is the real spirit of law. Therefore, law should be bound to be different, but very important thing is that the basic concepts that remain same. Basic concepts seldom change, like every free country has bothered for equality before law.
Right.
Every free country has bothered right to live, right of liberty. So, these are the fundamental right, one way or other way. It is being granted to its subject by the state, and in our country, Constitution of India say that I make constitution for myself. We the people of India make Constitution of India for ourselves. So, we are the maker, we are the user, we are the person who are to be affected, we are the person who are beneficiary. So, it is a very peculiar kind of situation. So, all laws indirectly also, if you think in the perspective of parliament, of legislative assembly, you can make out that who are they? They are our representative. So, as far as our country is concerned, we are the lawmaker, we are the law implementer, we are the law executors, and we are the law interpreter in one way or other way. So, that variety is very important.
Very important. One of the core areas of law is sentencing. And sentencing is based on certain principles,
yes,
certain factors, parameters. So, you have been a very senior judge.
Yes.
When you sentence, there are certain things taken into consideration. So, if you could speak on sentencing, its parameters and the considerations done or taken into taken before justice is delivered.
Right. Sentencing has two dimensions. One dimension is philosophy, and second dimension is practical aspect. So, first I will deal with practical aspect, that when a question comes to judge, that what sentence should I impose? First of all, the judge will declare the person guilty or not guilty. If he is given benefit of doubt or if he is acquitted, he goes home, simplicity. But if he is declared as a person who has committed the crime guilty, then the question of sentencing arises. Now, when the question of sentencing arises, the first point is what is the limit that is given to judge? Laws generally keep judges in the central. So, our sentencing policy is judges centric. It is the mind of the judge, but they give some limit, that 6 months to 10 years for illustration. So, that is written in law. That means it confines my powers, that I can impose sentence anything after more than 6 months to 10 years. Likewise, now what I will consider? First of all, I will consider type of the offence, whether is it a very grave offence,
Right.
is it the offence against society, is it offence against human body, is it between two individuals, is it between society and the culprit. So, I will think that. Second thing, I will think that what is the age of the accused.
Right.
If the accused is of tender age, maybe 19 years or 21 years, I will think that if I will send him to jail, perhaps his whole life will be spoiled. So, I may ask the probation officer to look after him every month, to take care of him. So, he will be under supervision of the probation officer, who is representative of the judge. I will also take care brutality. I will also take care, like, is it triple murder case? Is it in a very heinous way?
Right.
Weapon has been used? Was it a sudden attack? Is it because a person was suddenly angry? Suddenly the quarrel took place. You can say it heat of the moment. Was it because of heat of the moment? These are all my consideration. Above that, I will have to mandatorily listen to him before imposing sentence. I will give opportunity to accuse, what have you to say about the sentence. Then he will tell me about his family condition, that he is the only breadwinner, that he has small child of 6 months, his wife is all alone, or wife is pregnant, or parent are blind, or very old, very incapable. These are all factors which also judge will keep in mind. Last and the most important point which I will keep in mind is, what message, what signal will go to society. If I will give him only 6 months, I am empowered in law to give up to only 6 months. But if I do that, will society satisfied? I must see to it that the thirst of the society must be satisfied, because law should not only help in doing justice. Justice should not only be done, but it must appear to have been done. The society must feel that justice has been done. So, I must look to the society, because if there is satisfaction in the society, people by and large will respect law and order situation. If more and more people respect law and order situation, the civilization will be protected. People will feel sense of security and safety, which is sine qua non for any civilized society. So, judge has responsibility of several kinds. Now, this is about practical aspect. Now, as far as philosophical aspect, there are many philosophy. One is deterrence philosophy, that it must create fear. Those who are favoring death penalty, they are saying that it creates deterrence. Those who are not favoring, they said, had it been creating deterrence, no other such offence would have been committed, but offence are continuously in rise. So, the question of deterrence does not go. In the very beginning, we had the philosophy of taking revenge, badla lena hai. If you remember Jahangir's days, khoon ka badla khoon. If there is murder of the brother, do the murder of the brother of the victim can do murder of that person. So, khoon ka badla khoon, that was, and it was known as Jahangir's insaf. But today, in this new modern jurisprudence, modern philosophy, we do not like it. We say that a criminal can be a prey of circumstances also. So, we should rehabilitate him. We should try to see to it that instead of having more negative effect on his mind, we should see to it that he rehabilitate. When he goes back to society, he becomes a safety for the society, and he should not be a problem monger for the society. Therefore, if you know, in jails different vocational guidance is being given, different trainings are being given, bakery is being run in the jails, furnitures are being made in jail. In Gujarat, bhajiyas are made in jail, and very popular bhajiyas, pakoda, jails pakoda. So, all these things are being done, that is ultimately to rehabilitate. So, philosophy is one thing and practice is another thing, but somewhere both of them are to be seen with a combined angle.
You have brought jurisprudence in a wider sense in the social context and acceptance of the society in a way while preserving justice and law as well. So, it is very interesting to note the broader sense of sentencing, the broader philosophical and practical aspects of sentencing. But we have also seen that there is a misuse of law often, both from within the judiciary and beyond the judiciary. The political executive and law keeping authorities and also adjudicating authorities. At every level there has been instances of misuse. Why does misuse happen? What sort of checks and balances can be there, are there and can be there? What should the society think on these lines?
Let me tell you, sir, with all humbleness at my command, everything can be misused and everything can be used. It depends on user. This glass is over here, if it is broken, it can be used to injure someone, but it can as well be used to take tea in it, as you have offered me. So, likewise, everything when it exists, it is bound to be misused, because human mind is such. Therefore, difficult to change human mind, but as far as law is concerned, we can bring little more stringent provisions, and those have been made. Take an example, that if rape is committed in the jail on the inmate moment, the sentencing is very high.
Right.
If the rape is committed in the remand home, if the rape is committed in the children's home, if the rape is committed by the father to daughter. So, one who is custodian and guardian, or one who is given role of protecting, if when he is attacking, then the law takes very serious view of the entire thing, and more sentencing are there, and perhaps for that reason only judges have been given very wide powers. The range of sentencing is up to, it is always up to this, and that up to this can be used in such situation only. When I find that the protector is attacking, in that case I can add more sentencing, I can do stringent sentencing, I can say that it will be rigorous sentencing. Or take an example of 307, that is attempt to commit murder. If it is accident and something like that, I can give very less sentence, but if I find that it is a systematically cold blooded well planned conspiracy, I can give highest sentencing. So, whenever it is brought to the notice of judiciary, there is provision of giving more sentencing, and in some of the offences they have themselves clarified, like illustration I gave you, jail superintendent, the person who is in charge of the children home, person who is in charge of a particular place. So, all those places are taken care of, and all this kind of offences which you have rightly said, it is misuse of the power, abuse of the powers, those are being checked by the system in law.
Great, well noted that how abuse of power can be checked. Challenges come if the abuse is from the highest organization or highest seat of power. Many a time governments or the state as such also abuses power, and in that case the judiciary acts as a bulwark on behalf of the law, legal system and
right.
the people. Ma'am, going ahead, there are various areas of law, specializations, focus areas, and just like any domain, while the broad domain could be identified as one, but there are segments within it. So, in law, in the field of law and justice, what are the various specialization areas possible?
Originally, we had only two kind of specialization, civil law and criminal law. But once the globe started becoming a village, there arises need of international law. Let us connect corona, that because of corona today all meetings are virtual meetings. Therefore, cyber laws is important. Therefore, the laws related to power is important, because now we have started using fuel, gas. So, energy law is important, because we need to have health as our primary right. Pollution is important.
Right.
So, environment law is important. As I have told you, international affairs are on rise. Kulbhushan is the latest illustration
Right,
of Pakistan. So, we need international court for that purpose. Therefore, the international law is there. As we know, there is continuous rise in the alarming rise rather in commission of offences. So, we have a group of criminal laws. At the same time, after industrialization, after the world has become narrower and narrower, there is lot of export, import. So, there are commercial laws, there are business laws, and the modern is corporate laws, laws which are mainly meant for corporates. One more branch is of taxation laws. These are the groups of laws. So, in this again in this group there may be 5, 6, 7, 8, 10 laws, depend upon how many laws do we require. So, it depends upon that, but there are certain laws which are common for every group. If it is a civil side, of course, civil procedure code, by which procedure things will be operated. If it is criminal side, criminal procedure code, and when the evidence is to be appreciated, then Indian Evidence Act. These are the common thing which is equally applicable. Now, these different pockets or different groups of laws, they are meant for purpose of specialization. When you want specialization, then these kind of groups can help you. Like in our school, we give honors degree. So, in that honors we give specialization. So, specialization is generally for that. Yes.
Great. There are also niche areas coming up, like environmental law, like
Energy law.
energy law, right, very much. Media entertainment law.
Yes.
Many specialized, further specialization areas are coming up, and it would be interesting to understand which offer what type of careers as we go ahead. So, before getting into careers specifically, there are different programs being offered by your school, both at the bachelor's level and the master's level.
Yes.
So, if you could speak on what are the bachelor's level programs, how unique are they, why they are, how they are, the content of those courses, and how they are positioned in the marketplace. So, if you could speak on the programs.
Yes. Up to last year, we were imparting education in 3 groups: criminal laws group, business laws group, and international laws group. From this year, we have added 3 more groups: energy laws group, environmental laws group, and cyber laws group. Yeah. So, now today in UG, we offer 6 specialization. So, at the end of the degree, one will be honors graduate. That means specialization in a particular subject. Up to 6th semester, all the subjects are common. From 7th semester, the student will decide that I want to go in this particular field. So, we have 6 different groups, and the student can accordingly choose their line and can go there. If someone wanted to work on the international level or in the international NGO, then international laws is the best group. If someone wanted to work on the side of the criminal law, then criminal laws is the best group. If someone wanted to directly join his family business or wanted to be lawyer for the business, that is commercial transaction, then the business law group is best. If one want to join corporate or wanted to start corporate or wanted to be corporate law officer, then corporate law groups is very good. In the same way, if you want to be environment specialist or you want to be counselor for the industry, that for environment, for pollution, what care they should take, then environmental law group is best. Energy law group is also a very specialized branch which is for all sort of energies. And then, as I told you, cyber law is again worldwide, because cyber crime which is effected in India, committed in India, could be originated from Spain also, one does not know. So, that has again an international perspective. So, these 6 groups we are offering in the UG. There are 3 streams we are running: BA LLB, BBA LLB and BSc LLB. If someone is interested in science, or if someone has taken in 12th science and if he has inclination for the subject of science, he can choose BSc LLB.
How does it help in the career?
As such, once you become LLB, it is LLB only, but it helps. Suppose someone want to join to pharmaceutical company as a law officer, he will be joining as a law officer, but to understand the litigation of that pharmaceutical company, if he is BSc LLB, that will help him. In the same way, take an example of BA LLB. There is a political science, a subject, psychology, a subject, sociology, a subject. So, where he wanted to develop his future scope as a law officer in such kind of organization, it can help. In BBA, there will be banking, statistic, account. So, when one wanted to join such places, but once you become law, you will become a law officer. This previous tax, that is the what you do for the first 3 years, that will decide that you have inclination in a particular stream. But afterwards, once you get degree, all the 3 are same. Value as far as in the world of judiciary is
legal
same.
value is same.
Same.
Only their specialization areas may be different, or
So, we offer these 3 stream, this 6 specialization, that is for UG. For PG again, the specializations we offer for 2 years LLM. We run 2 courses, one is 2 years LLM, one is 1 year LLM. 1 year LLM we run only for corporate laws. There are many people who straight away wanted to be law officer in corporate world or wanted to join corporate. So, they do this LLM because PG studies bring an insight. UG study gives you fundamentals, but PG gives you insight.
Very good.
And we also run the 3rd course, that is PhD. There are many scholars join with us with different specialization, and they are doing their PhD, pursuing their PhD at School of Law and Justice.
Great. What are the master's specialization areas you said? The insights into which areas?
Master, if you want to do 1 year, it is in corporate and competition laws. If you want to do for 2 years, all the same 6 groups are available. The 6th group, I repeat: international law, business laws, then criminal laws, then environmental law, energy law, and cyber laws.
Environment and energy are 2 different laws?
Yes, they are 2 different laws. Energy laws is for energies like gas and other energies which we are utilizing it. So, it is meant for that energy. Environment is concerned with the pollution, concerned with the overall environment, and there are many industries which are governed by pollution control board. They are being given certain directives that what they have to add, how they should purify the waste which is coming out from the industrial activities, all this is covered by environmental law.
Great. And so many areas of specialization, such a big thing. So what is the strength of the faculty, what quality of faculty you have, and what infrastructure for legal training, proper legal training do you have?
I am very proud to state that School of Law and Justice is a singular college in India where 5 judges are imparting education.
Right.
5 retired judges come to us, including me, and we are teaching in fact in the classroom at UG, PG, both the levels. We are inviting senior lawyers, we are inviting professionals. I am also happy to state that we have 2 retired forensic officers who are full-fledged joined with us. So, with this is forming our senior teams.
Right.
We have associate professors, we have assistant professors, we have also research assistant. Our library is extremely rich. Our library can be extended to our home also, particularly our digital library. So, our library is very rich, let me tell you, and all these facilities are also available to every student. Every student can view the library sitting somewhere, like we are having many magazines which are digital magazines, we are having many journals which are again digital. So, soft journal you can say that student have access to it and unlimited access to it. That is a charm of the whole thing.
Great. Moot court practice is also there.
Yes.
Court, the role of moot court is there.
Yes, that is again our speciality. Generally in law schools, moot court are periodically done. Every law school does. But what we have done is that we have compulsorily arrange moot court for every subject.
Good.
It is not for a limited subject, for every subject, every teacher must take the student to moot court, and without completion of the moot court, we do not entertain internal marks. So, we have fully attached moot court.
So, the practical of debating, discussing, arguing in a formal court structure brings it.
Over and above it, our speciality is that ours is a School of Law and Justice. So, justice oriented education is highly emphasized.
Judicial services.
Yes, highly emphasized. To an extent that in the last semester, we also impart training to our student how to appear in judicial examination, and we have specially kept it preparation for judiciary. And in fact, preparation for judiciary is one such subject where there is also preparation for NGO and preparation for social service, preparation for lawyering. So, in one subject we are giving 4 choices. So, student can choose any of the option. If he has decided by in the last sem that I wanted to be lawyer only, then he can choose preparation for lawyering. If he has decided that no, I want to do social service, I will join some NGO, then he will be imparted training for the NGO work. In the same way, we have continuously internship. Every year minimum 1 month internship is mandatory provision, and more than that. Now, the beauty or charm of our internship is, in every college there is internship, but our internship is directly guided by retired judge. Retired judge remain with the student in the court, so he can practically explain there. So, clinical education that we are giving great emphasis, and we are trying our best to see to it that clinical education should be a live, a vibrant and important component of our legal education at our school.
Great. You also have free legal aid cell and legal literacy.
Yes.
If you could explain that, and how do these things help the learning of law for students?
Yes. First of all, Adamas University is proud to state that it has own free legal services clinic. We run a clinic. In that, any needy person can come who can be counseled. Take an example that in adjoining village someone has to make an application to collector. So, he can come to our free legal aid clinic, and there we will train our student. Our retired judges are frequently, timely sitting there, and there our retired judges will train our student how to draft that application. So, indirectly student are trained and the villagean is given benefit of the expertise of the retired judge, as well as the student is also trained. So, we have a project of free and competent legal services.
Very nice.
Just because it is free, it is not useless. It is free and competent legal services. In this project, we also go school to school. We enlighten student of 10th, 11th, 12th, and we organize legal literacy camps, that is popularly known as LLC. There we make our student to speak on the laws which are required for day to day life. So, laws which are useful in our daily life are being taught to our student, and our student are asked to educate the members or the audience who is there in LLC.
Very nice.
There we also do skit, script, mute kind of drama or all such things by which the idea of legal services is communicated. Legal service is as such duty of the state, and state will have to see that the balance is strike between have less and have more in court of law, and just for want of money one should not be subjected or victim of injustice. Therefore, this thing is ongoing in every court. Every court has such centers where our students are going for internships. They learn there and they put it into practice in our legal services clinic and our LLC wherever we held those LLCs.
Very nice. This brings to light a gamut of things apart from programs which are common in every school. The things which are very significant to note, and I would reiterate, the judicial services, focus on judicial services in the courses, moot court for all courses, every course is having moot court, digital library which can be extended to homes even for students, diverse young faculty coupled with 5 retired senior judges of different courts from high court to lower courts to higher courts, fabulous. Annual internships and legal literacy camps which has been told, free legal clinic. These are some of the key points which distinguish the Adamas Law and Justice School, and I really appreciate ma'am for spearheading this complete makeover of Adamas Legal Studies.
Thank you. I want to add one very important thing.
Please do.
On this 8th August and 9th August, first time National Online Moot Court is to be held by us. It is organized and we are going to held it on those 2 days. It will be online National Moot Court, which will be first of its kind.
Great, that is indeed very good. So, while passing out as LLB or even LLM, what are the job prospects? What are the various domains in which youngsters can be employed?
First of all, let me tell you, there is no activities on this earth where law is not used. So, student of law will never remain unemployed. If he learns skills and techniques of this field, he cannot be unemployed at all. But giving some examples, like one can be law teacher, one can be judge, one can be arbitrator, one can be consultant, one can be law officer, one can be in the bank or in corporate world, one can be company secretary, one can be a lawyer in the High Court, Supreme Court or lower courts or any court. There are varieties of things which can be done. You can be negotiator, you can be mediator, you can be conciliator. There are roles and roles and roles and roles for a law student, and these days conveyancing, mediation, all these new areas are emerging very well. These days, as we know, because of corona, everything is stopped, but lawyer is not sitting idle. He will have some or other activities, because the courts are also functioning on the virtual level also, and the citizen who is in need of urgent order, he gets urgent order, because courts are listening to the litigants and their lawyers even online. So, this is non-stopping, it is like breathing, it just cannot stop, it has to be with eternal life and vibration.
So, law and legal careers is all around, and hence a lawyer or law graduate or a postgraduate has immense possibilities as far as engaging productively in a career is concerned, as has been explained. You, towards the end of your talk, you were
even for journalists,
yes,
I remember, even for journalists, nowadays what is increasing, what is being highestly read? Court news. So, for that also the LLB is preferred,
yes.
Though that person becomes journalist, but if he is LLB, he is preferred, because then his law court news will be more filtered, more proper,
for
more
legal
better.
journalism, for sure, for legal journalism, a law
Yes.
graduate is always preferred. The COVID impact on legal education, if you can throw light on that.
Yes. COVID impact on legal education is not that bad. I tell you, my experience is, the students who were otherwise not very attentive have started becoming attentive.
That's good.
Because they can sit in a comfortable posture at their home, only Wi-Fi is needed. If my class is at 9:30, even if they wake up by 9:15, still they can attend the class. They have not to wear uniform, they have not to be very well dressed up, they have facility of switching off the video and only keeping audio mode. So, because of that, actually attendance without any strict measures has increased, and increased to such a satisfactory level. That means students have accepted it very well. Another thing I tell you, that previously we were teaching 9:30 to 5:30. Today 8:30 to 8:30, it goes on, it goes on. Lot of material can be supplied to our student. We can send them our PPT, we can send them good articles. In our LLM, we have sent about 60 good articles, which perhaps here we would have told them to read from the library or something like that. And the time was also too much available, so we could explain all the 60 articles. So, that way, according to me, for legal education, it is blessing in disguise. And from the examination of the paper, which after the midterm we have examined, we have assessed, we learned that they have written very well. That means they have perceived very well. So, as far as impact on legal education is concerned, I would say that it is blessing in disguise. Of course, corona should go away, those old days, golden old days should come again, where physical contact is physical contact.
Physical contact will remain, but blended learning will be the future.
Yes.
And it's good to take the best of both.
Of course, face to face is something, but there still, after all, we have successfully done this method of education,
right,
and students have perceived it very well, because without their response we could not have done it.
Great.
So, I appreciate, through this medium, I appreciate their response also.
This is good to know that, and yes, as I was telling, it will be, the future will be physical plus digital is equal to phygital or blended or hybrid learning.
That's right.
And the best of both the worlds can be clubbed together. People were not open to the idea of digital learning so much. Now, the pandemic is taught, and as you have rightly said, that there could be certain advantages of digital learning, which can be clubbed with the physical learning as well. I do agree, the moot court practice can be done physically far better, though it can also be done virtually, but far better physically. And there are certain aspects of debates, discussions, peer group work, joint work, which can be largely and better done physically. So, over a period of time, both will happen. And it's good to see the essential or urgent cases are being taken up virtually. I do believe if run well, if done well, if the lawyers and the judges get accustomed to the virtual medium, even cross-examination to an extent can be done virtually as well. So moving ahead, it's a great pleasure to listen to you about the evolution of law, the various classifications of law, the job prospects of law in almost every possible domain, and also how the legal system has evolved, and certain conceptual and philosophical aspects of jurisprudence as well. And as you have rightly explained, the impact of COVID also on legal practice and legal education. So ladies and gentlemen, young boys and girls who have been listening to this particular 1-hour discussion, we have covered a huge gamut of legal and jurisprudence education. Yes, I understand that law is such a vast subject, cannot be covered in 1 hour. There can be a special talk only on human rights law, on constitutional law, on corporate law, or any other specific areas. But we have covered it so well, and the 6 domains of specialization within law that's there in Adams University have also been explained very well, and how LLB itself taught from 3 perspectives: BA, BSc and BBA, three perspectives, and the 6 specializations at the postgraduate level as well, and research and other activities. So these will give a guideline to you about legal education and profession and practice of the future. With this, we bring this session to an end. Thank you, ma'am, for a very erudite and well explained
discussion. My pleasure,
discussion.
sir. My
Thank
pleasure.
you. And we meet with another topic another day.